there is no risk management right now in the industry. So yeah, I guess the state of risk management is pretty non-existent. I think DeFi, to its credit, has been pretty safe. So if you were lending in a DeFi protocol, unless you got Mango markets attacked, most of them are pretty safe in terms of the amount of collateral they have and the LTV ratios they have. And you can see that Aave and Maker and all of the really big lending protocols haven't taken substantial losses, while all the centralized ones did. And ultimately, that just comes down to the fact that they were over-collateralized and conservative with those collateralization ratios. And I think that when you have assets that are as volatile as the assets that we have in crypto, trying to play the under-collateralized lending game is sort of setting yourself up for failure. So I think right now, people definitely, I think people still underestimate the risk of these black swan style events. And as a result, the state of risk management is very poor.
You got two folks up here you're talking with. We've got message passing in terms of you keep the assets on source and then you can message to target, and you've got the ability to do cross margining. And anyway, so if you think about that just vertically, you wind up having that's one domain of execution. And the domain we're playing at is, again, this lower level of just native settlement where a lot of stuff is happening. And so, in terms of risk management, you've got an entire stack of unquantifiable risk. Everybody just kind of hand waves it, and that's fine. The risk that we are just laser focused on, again, is there's going to be another FTX event. Over the last 12 months, we just watched every large centralized Bitcoin lender blow their hands off. And if we don't actually have decentralized rails for, again, these large native asset classes and the ability to create UX that is at parity with centralized exchanges, people are going to keep going there to do that, to do those hops.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a question that's been on my mind for a while, which is you had this bifurcation of Bitcoin and Ethereum, and Bitcoin is still the largest digital asset. It's where people kind of park a lot of value. And yet the way that you get a utility out of it is on these composable virtual machines. And so I think that makes a lot of sense, I think.
But it's also the case that networks propagate. You're all just like nature. You got a forest of a bunch of different, there's just networks propagate. That's what they do. And you have an entire ecology of networks that serve different purposes. You'll have the same thing with assets. And so as much as we want to collapse it down into something simple, no, in 5 years, there's going to be another group of yahoos sitting on the stage talking about something else, and 80% of that you won't have imagined today. So it's going to keep moving itself forward, and there's going to continue to be financial expression at the edges that continues to gain mass. And as this whole thing moves, we just need to have the ability to resolve that down to safe, secure rails at the base level, at least in my opinion. And that's not the whole stack. Like I said, we're focused on this real thin layer.
Well, I think at every level of the stack, that's important.
Yes.
You have the settlement layer because when you put your money in FTX, nobody actually knew what was happening with it until we realized afterwards
it was getting sold and lent out.
Yeah, and then even at a higher level, just having transparency into where what smart contract is my money actually in, how is it being managed, what are the rules for liquidations and all of that. You need transparency through DeFi in order to avoid a lot of the problems that we've had with these centralized exchanges. And I think to the risk management point, the thing that's really hard to quantify is platform risk. And as if you're an asset manager or you're a hedge fund or somebody who's managing a lot of money, that's probably the biggest risk to your fund is if where I'm custodying my assets and what platforms I'm using. And especially if they're centralized and opaque, there's really no way to measure that. And the potential downside is infinite. You lose everything. And you have no idea, okay, how much should I be comfortable placing with each of these institutions? And so I think, what THORChain is doing for native asset settlement, and I think what we're doing to try and get people who are using financial tools off of centralized exchanges is necessary so people can know that risk that they have, it's going to be limited more to smart contract risk, but there's no transparency or fraud risk that's going on.